Welcome to another episode of the INH Show, talking about geek culture, news and lifestyle. And today it's a long-awaited episode. It's the one that everyone wants to see.
I've been wanting to talk about this for a while now.
Today we're going to be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy.
And man, what an awesome movie it was, right? You can with me saying that, you can tell what to expect already.
So we're just going to lead with that, is it?
Yeah.
Well, let's, at least for the consistency and for courtesy of people who haven't seen it, although I don't know anyone who hasn't seen the movie who is a fan of the INH show, let's get into the spoiler-free version of it first.
Okay.
Did you like the movie?
Loved the movie. I thought it was freaking amazing. It was so good. For me personally, it brought back a lot of nostalgic feelings, especially the soundtrack. The Awesome Mix Volume 1 was really cool, and obviously a slight touch on the Awesome Mix Volume 2, but let's not spoil it too much here. So yeah, look, the music in it is amazing. I think the CG was great. The characters were overall pretty good. I like the way that they were equally weighted for each and every character throughout the whole movie with the time length they've had. Sort of like the Avengers, right? The Avengers had a good amount of mix of, you see a bit of Cap, you see a bit of Hulk, that sort of thing. They did it really well. They executed it really well.
Well, just as a little teaser for the end, we are going to, I guess, give our thoughts and compare it to those other movies.
Yep, definitely.
So I'm not going to ask you if you think which one's better, but so you highly recommend the movie?
Highly double recommend the movie. I mean, yeah, hands down.
Well, that's a very... Go on.
I was going to say, if you haven't watched it yet, make sure you go watch it. You don't miss it. I think for people who grew up around our era, would probably enjoy it because it's got a great science fiction space theme to it. It's got great comedy. It's got good references. It does really bring back a lot of those feelings that I grew up watching.
It very much does seem to be written for people who are of our generation, isn't it?
I found that, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but people like us who watched, The Last Starfighter and all those sort of science fiction movies, right? Footloose and all that sort of stuff. I think this brings a lot of memories back again. That's why I really enjoyed it.
Well, that's a very positive, glowing recommendation for the movie.
Yeah.
Let me preface my recommendation by saying that I'm not an active reader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, so my opinion is based entirely on the merit of the movie alone.
Okay, well, since you said that, I will honestly say I'm currently reading the Guardians of the Galaxy that's currently going. I've only just finished reading the previous volume as well. So I will not honestly not say that I don't have a vast knowledge in regards to it. I've got probably quite a minimal knowledge to what other people out there have. But from what I know and what I've read, really enjoyed it. But there's a couple of things I will nitpick for a second. But sorry, back to you.
Well, I have no bias going into this movie.
And that's great. That's what we want, right? So
with all that being said, I think this is a fantastic movie. It is easily the most fun I've had in a theatre for a long time.
Absolutely. I
highly recommend you watch it. If you've seen it already, watch it twice. If you have seen it twice,
watch it thrice.
Watch it a third time. Even watch it in 3D.
Yeah, I mean, did you watch it in 3D?
I didn't watch it in 3D, but I think it's worth watching.
I didn't, unfortunately, watch it in 3D, but I find that I almost feel like I should have, only because being that it's a lot of CG and it's in space and all that sort of stuff.
It's not shot for 3D, but you think that with the CG they can make it look...
It might bring it out a little bit more. That's just how I feel like. For example, I only watch 3Ds if it's A, made and filmed for 3D, like Avatar, B, if it's an animation, because they tend to pop out the cells really well, or C, if it's got great CG, blow-up scenes, all that sort of stuff. I think it's probably worth it, where things can go at you, right?
Well, the only reason I say watch it in 3D is because I can't stand the thought of Transformers 4 being the #1 movie of 2014. I would love if Guardians of the Galaxy overtook it.
Do we know if it's overtaken it, or it's beaten it yet? Probably not, huh?
Well, I don't think as of today it has, but fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
We can make it happen. We can make it happen. So with that all out of the way, let's get more into the film itself.
Yep, sure.
What do you think about the characterization? Because that was one thing I'm not overly familiar with those characters.
Okay.
But I have some things to say about them.
Okay.
One by one.
Sure.
What did you think about the... Yeah. Okay. What are your thoughts about the characters in the movie?
Cool. The Peter Quill character, awesome. I really enjoyed his character. Like, happy-go-lucky character. You know, he's a bit of a scoundrel, but in a good way. You know, he's lovable.
Very likable, yeah.
Very, very lovable.
Well, you know, I don't want to commit anything just yet. I want to see where this is going first.
Right.
You know,
So
we only just met each other, so I just, you know, I don't want to.
Well, I really liked the way that he was portrayed. And I was worried at first when they casted
Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I was really worried because he's very comedic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But after you watch this movie, he can do comedic, he can hold his own in action and all that sort of stuff. I thought he played it really well. Rocket was great for me. I enjoyed Rocket the way he is. Would it be nicer if maybe they showed how he was more of a strategist, but not needed for the wider audience.
I think they had enough though, because he's the guy with the plan. He's the guy who knows what's going to happen. So yeah, Rocket. What about Groot?
Groot. I am Groot.
There's not really much else we can say about it, isn't it?
I am Groot.
Drax.
Drax. See, okay, so my two issues here with the two characters are Drax and Gamora, and the only reason is with Drax, I personally found that maybe he spoke a little bit too much. Maybe he felt like he's a little bit too intelligent. That's just sort of how I felt. I thought reading the books, he was more of the silent, quiet sort of guy who had his moments where he'll say certain things like he wants to destroy this, and you know, which he did.
He's
but
Drax the Destroyer, is that what you're saying? As opposed to Drax the
comedy destroyer.
You
know, stand-up comedian.
The funny, yeah.
But I understand why they would have done that. I mean, at the end of the day, it'd be pretty boring for that character just to be silent all the time and just have a few mentions.
Well, it is weird, isn't it? Because they cast a wrestler to be Drax the Destroyer, and normally, if you're going to cast a wrestler, you got to pick your role quite cleverly. I thought he did a great job, actually, as Drax the Destroyer.
Overall, I did, but yeah, that's just me nitpicking, which I can oversee all of that anyways, because the movie was great. And the last one was Gamora. In regards to the Gamora, I thought she was a little bit weak, a bit too feminine. I would have liked to see her to be more of a kick-ass sort of character. Because she's the daughter of
By no means
Thanos.
was she the damsel in distress.
She's not, but you know, there's a couple of scenes in there where I was like, ooh, I think I would have thought that she would have been able to hold her own a little bit more. That's just how I felt. So those are my nitpicks, but again, I can oversee all of that just purely because the movie was great.
Well, with the characters, I guess on a similar note, with the exception of Peter Quill, I found that a lot of the characters were fairly shallow in their characterization.
Okay.
Now, that's not really a big criticism, because they introduce a lot of characters, they do a good job of introducing the characters, but all we know about the characters is just given through a monologue, or just a little line about them. Like Rocket, he's got the line about how, you know, I've been pulled apart and put back together so many times.
Oh,
that's all we know about him.
So freaking... I actually felt emotionally bad when he said that. I actually did.
Well, you know what? Strangely enough, I thought Bradley Cooper was really good in this movie.
You know, his voice was...
It was different. Wasn't what I expected.
Yeah, I mean, there were moments of Bradley Cooper, but I thought he covered his voice
when I
pretty
first heard him, I thought, is that Bradley Cooper, or is that just a random voice?
But I thought he did it really well.
I thought Bradley Cooper is very underrated. I thought he was just going to phone it in. Literally, because he doesn't have to be on the set.
Right.
But that's what we know about Rocket. Groot, well...
I'm Groot.
Exactly. That's all we can say about Groot, really. And, I mean, that's basically it. Drax, he's got the line about how his family was murdered in front of him. Gamora had that line about how she's not really Thanos' daughter and she's got her own motives. You know, even Thanos himself... We know that he's a threat by his reputation. He doesn't really do anything in this movie. And then there's like Ronan Keating, the Accuser, who does like very little as well. Like he wakes up and they paint him up.
Yeah, right.
And he does very little. Even guys like Yondu and Nova Prime, they're in it just to advance one part of the movie.
It is.
So I thought it's kind of shallow, but again, this is all stuff we can overlook because what we're told about them is enough.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't need to know how Rocket and Groot met necessarily. I think it'd be a fun story, and all the comic book fans probably know what happened, and they'll tell me what a great
it'd be really cool.
It is.
It would be really cool if they did like a web series, a short web series, just to sort of show glimpses.
I would like that, and I guess they could do it. It's all CG, just get the voices.
Oh, definitely.
But we know enough about Rocket that we care about him, and we know enough about Groot. I guess it's not really. We don't really need to know too much about him.
Okay.
Drax, we know enough about him that we understand his motivations. So I thought that was great. It was a bit of a weakness, but they did it well for this movie. Peter Quill, I think, is their big ace up the sleeve because here's a guy who he's a child of the 80s. He's still living in the 80s.
Yep.
And it's something that, many people can relate to, right? Or at least people in our age group.
I gotta say, you know what? After watching the movie, I really want to get his mask, his helmet.
Really?
Freaking awesome helmet! It's so cool. It's
I like this jacket, so I'll say that. I
his jacket is pretty cool as well. Yeah, I mean, look, child of the 80s, really awesome, and the nostalgic feeling that I get out of it, it's a lot of it, like I might have said before, is based on the music, the feel of
there's
it.
the Walkman and the music, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those are things that we had growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't.
He's not pulling out an iPad and searching through for and notice I did the circular some of you kids might not know what that means, but anyway.
But I mean, look, like I said, with the music, I didn't grow up listening as in when it was on radio because I'm a child of the 80s as well. But when I was in the kitchen helping my mom cook and stuff like that, that's the sort of music that she would play, right?
Such a sweet kid.
That's the sort of music I grew up listening to, and it's just so cool to sort of hear that.
I think it offsets the movie very well.
It does.
That sort of music. So music is definitely a big part of the
absolutely
of this film.
Absolutely.
One thing that I will say is that to me, I felt the action was I wouldn't say weak, but it was not as good as some of the other action. Maybe I was expecting too much.
Is it because it's not focused in on, you know what I mean? Like,
it could be that
because they're always fighting in a big battle, right? They're always fighting with a whole bunch of different sort of characters.
It's a very science fiction movie, so it to me it had that Lord of the Rings effect where you're seeing random ships and laser blasts going everywhere,
right.
And it's kind of hard to really get attached and try to enjoy everything.
Okay.
So I thought the action was a little bit weak. I thought it was very funny.
Yep.
I think this is easily the funniest movie from the Marvel Studios so far.
Absolutely. How would you compare it to any of the other movies? I mean, top 3, top 5? Like, how would you weight it against all the Avengers, for example?
To me, I think Avengers is the benchmark.
Yep. I feel the same way. Yep.
But I feel it's the benchmark and it's the best movie they've done so far because it's got so much going for it. It's a marquee movie. Yep. With marquee actors. It has so many movies leading up to it.
It does. It had all that time, Iron Man on its own, Hulk, all that sort of stuff. So it had a really easy, good build-up.
But not only that, but I did feel the characterization in Avengers was also good, but that's completely that's a different story.
Okay.
So I think Avengers is still, for me, the top one.
Wow, okay.
So really, it's a two-horse race between now Captain America 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy.
See, I cannot compare Captain America 2 to Guardians of the Galaxy, and the only reason is because they're two completely different genres, right? Captain America 2 has a very dark feel to it, so it's hard for me to make that comparison to it. I can compare it to Avengers quite easily because it's a team superhero movie, and sure, Cap 2 is a superhero movie as well, but it's just got a completely different feel. So I can't.
You're going to be diplomatic, and
I am, and I cannot make that comparison.
Well, I am going to say that to me, Guardians of the Galaxy is probably it definitely is the more fun and more enjoyable movie. But I think Captain America 2 for me is the better movie of the two. And yeah, it's true, you can't really compare an espionage spy thriller movie with a straight up
fun
science fiction comedy movie. And I guess in many ways, Guardians of the Galaxy, these are characters who I'm not overly familiar with.
Okay.
So, through no fault of its own, I like Captain America more. Guardians of the Galaxy, watching the movie, it definitely made me care about those characters.
Definitely. I think for the time frame that they've had to introduce all these characters to squeeze into that film was good without having their own individual, right? So I had the buy-in of all each character.
And when we looked at the trailer, I felt that this was going to be a pretty disposable, throwaway action comedy movie.
Right.
And I was quite wrong in the end because it was quite moving at times.
Yeah, definitely.
I did care about the characters.
Okay.
And I probably will be reading your copies of Guardians of the Galaxy when...
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, did you have any other criticisms with the movie?
No, besides from that, I really enjoyed it. Science fiction, it's what I expected, and it met every single...
I have two other criticisms, which I think are quite legitimate.
Okay.
First one is, there is some bad language in the movie.
Do you
remember?
My memory? Spoiler.
Watch it again.
Let's get into the spoiler section.
Oh, well, I mean, there's not really too much we can spoil. I guess this movie is quite a linear Marvel movie whereby they set up the thing that they need to get, they set up the villain, and then at the end they gotta, you know, so I guess that's not really criticism as such, but it's very formulaic, it's by the numbers.
Oh, definitely.
But there is cursing in this movie. There is, I think,
cursing?
maybe 2 or 3. This is the sort of thing that I pay attention to.
See, I didn't. I enjoyed it. I was just like, whoa.
I just think that in a superhero movie,
you shouldn't be swearing.
you know, we could do away with the cursing.
Okay.
I can make an exception for violence and that sort of thing, but in the comics, that you don't see bad language in the comics. No, I mean, even like Batman and those movies.
Well, in the Guardians, they sort of scribble things out.
They do? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, in the previous volume, they changed the words a little bit.
So okay. Well,
or they put certain characters.
I just think that for a superhero movie, you know, I don't need to hear bad language.
Okay.
Even out of the mouth of Bradley Cooper or whoever's delivering it well.
If any of the characters were to swear, Rocket would be the one, I reckon. It would be Rocket for sure.
Well, that's one issue I had with it. The other issue I had was, I guess, with it's similar to my criticism of Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a bit where she's going to shoot the guy and she lowers the gun. Go watch our review and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
A bit at the end of the movie where Peter Quill, he opens up the letter and the present from his mom, right?
Ah, right, yes.
Now,
yes.
when this happens, he opens up the letter, and on the screen, you actually see this letter.
You can read it.
Yeah. And so the letter has the word Star-Lord on it, right? I thought it was just, what should have happened, in my mind, what I wanted to have happen was that he opens the letter, and maybe you see his face. Yeah, you see his face, and he's reading the letter, and you can hear his mother's monologue. Right. And then when she says Star-Lord, then you can see the letter itself to see this handwritten letter. Wouldn't that have been a more moving?
Yeah, I think so.
It kind of took a lot of the impact out of it.
I think that would have been that's a good way. That's a good valid point.
I mean, I'm sure we all knew that he was going to get the Awesome Mix Volume 2. There was no
doubt about it. No doubt about it.
But I just think it would have been a more touching moment because, you know, he wanted to be Star-Lord all this time. He's trying to make a name for himself. And all this time, his mother, you know, he was her Star-Lord all this time. I thought that would have been a much moving way to do it.
Okay, that's fair.
So, James Gunn, if you're watching this, you know, these are... I'm trying to make the movie better for you.
Do you want to talk about teasers, Easter eggs?
Some of the Easter eggs we saw? Yeah, well...
A couple of very basic stuff that I picked out. And I'm sure there's more out there. The internet has a whole bunch of them. So they've basically, not explained, but spoke about...
They've set up the fact that there are these gems. Yep, and that there are these...
Infinity Stones, Infinity Gems that obviously Thanos is collecting.
And we've seen, I guess, the...
Power Stone, I think it was.
Astute viewers will know that we've seen quite a few of them in the past.
I think we've seen the Mind Gem in the Avengers. We've seen, obviously, this one's the Power Gem. Then we've seen the one in Thor.
Well, yeah, the ether was something, space or something. Is that,
I believe it might be space, yeah.
Yeah, so we saw that. There were a few character cameos,
I
guess.
Cosmo the dog, the dog in the space suit at the end. Oh, yeah, we're in spoilers. Who licks the collector.
And I guess on that note, we have to mention Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck, yep. Which is a bit of an odd one. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, what did you think of that stinger at the end?
I did not expect that at all. I thought they would have shown a teaser for the next, maybe... Marvel movie, whatever the major event might be, but I didn't think.
I was so sure that we were going to see Paul Rudd, or I was so sure we were going to see Ultron or something.
See, that would have made more sense to me. That's what I was expecting.
It was, it was something I didn't expect it. I thought it was a pretty fun little gag. Howard the Duck, as voiced by Seth Green. Do you reckon there's going to be a Howard the Duck movie?
Nah, come on. They've already done one back in the days.
Well, you know, I mean, if they can wave their magic wand over Guardians of the Galaxy and turn that into it,
they won't do it. Oh god. But as an overall, how would you rate it? How many solar systems out of 5?
I'm not going to give it the solar system rating, but I will say it gets 5 Infinity Stones.
Oh, nice one.
On my glove.
Nice one. 5.
5 Infinity Stones.
Wow, a full 5 out of 5.
Yeah, you know, it's not perfect, but I think we can give 5 out of 5 without telling people that it's a perfect movie.
Okay,
what do you think? What would you rate it?
I'd probably give it about 4.5, personally.
And is that just because you don't want to say it's perfect? You don't want to have that hanging over you?
I don't want to... I don't give any movies 5 out of 5.
How diplomatic.
Yeah, but it by no means is it a crap movie. It's a fucking awesome movie. Oh.
Come on, we just talked about this. Well, what did you guys think of the movie? Is it better than Avengers or Captain America 2?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you seen it more than once?
Let us know, and leave your comments in the bottom.
Till next time, guys.
Adios.